Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our first and only live in December. I typically do these during, the rest of the year just because it's so much slower and I have a little bit more availability to do it. But I'm excited because I heard Hannah's story and she sent me a DM in the stories just saying, I've just had so much success this month. I'm the official vendor for a really, really big brand. So we're going to talk about that in a second. But before that, I wanted to kind of introduce the Craft Academy, which is where we actually met and continue to work together every single day. So the Craft Academy is a coaching program that gives you a step-by-step process on how to go from 0 clients to actually booking your dream clients. It's complete with all the templates for pitches, emails, brand decks, contracts, and that way you can actually book with confidence and get that consistent cash flow. So I'm excited because I wanted to introduce Hannah. She's the artist behind Tally Mark Calligraphy, and she's actually known for helping couples, brands, business owners really establish a creative and intentional experience for weddings and of course events. Last year, as a comparison, in November and December, she made about $3,000. And this year she is projected to 4 times that income to about $11,000, which is huge. And she actually just recently quit her full-time job. Not only that, she's been able to work for major brands like Gucci, Fendi, Tory Burch, Usher, Tiffany and Co, Dior, and Moët, just to name a few. So Hannah,
totally.
Give us a little bit of background and what your journey to
I've always loved the letters. Doodling as a kid. I was always drawn to like words and lettering and always been kind of creative, but ended up going a more scientific route in my education through college. When I was in grad school, I started to learn calligraphy because I am a serial hobbyist and just decided to pick it up and just fell in love with it. I loved it. It was a really great creative outlet for me. I started to do it more and I realized that people kept asking me to do it for them. Can you do a print? Can you do this wedding? People wanted to pay me for it. I dabbled in the business side of it a little bit, did some Etsy stuff, did some things for friends, but very casually. During the pandemic, I was furloughed from my previous full-time job for about 18 months. So it gave me some time to really explore that business side. And so I had the time to see if this is something that I wanted to do and something that was feasible for me. So I started getting into it a little bit more on a little more legitimate business side. Full-time job came back, did it together as a side hustle. And then after about a year, I decided to take it full-time and did a lot of prep for that. Really started to love the work of entrepreneurship. It made me really want to work hard at it. And so I, prepped to leave my full-time job and take the business full-time, which I've been doing for about 2 months now. And it's the best decision I ever made.
Yeah, and congratulations on being full-time for 2 months already. I know this journey can be a little bit scary, but this is the first season where you're just fully committed to calligraphy, and it shows how much you've grown already since then in such a short amount of time. So tell us what you do for your, or what you did for your
so my former full-time job, I was the head athletic trainer for Michael Jackson 1 at Cirque du Soleil. I've been doing that in the head position for about 2 years, and then I was working for Cirque full-time for 5 years total. I feel pretty lucky because I still get to do it sometimes. I'm still an on-call over there, so it's super fun to still keep my hand in it. But yeah, did that for 5 years, and it was definitely a really fun job.
Yeah, and it seems like it's the best of both worlds right now, where you get to fully commit to your creative business and own your own time. But if you wanted to go back and dabble in
nice.
your previous job, you're more than welcome
shifted
to,
over
right?
the last year to wanting to do something more creative. I'm able to put more of that time back into that creative stuff and my business. Like you said, I get to own my own time. So now I have this more ownership over my life and my time, but I still get to do what I went to school for, and I still get to work at the circus a little bit, but only when I want to, which is really nice.
Oh my gosh. So what a fun story. Like, I still remember our first call where that was like mind blown, because like you were literally the coolest person ever. I love Cirque du Soleil. I love all the acrobat stuff. Yes. So I'm like super excited.
Yeah.
I'm definitely coming out to Vegas to visit you, and then like we're gonna go watch a show together. So let's backtrack a little bit. I know you started learning calligraphy and dabbling in it during the pandemic, which, talk about a silver lining. What was your daily work and life schedule like when you first started?
So at Cirque, I have a really unique schedule because we're on a show schedule. So I got to be there when the show is running, and so I worked nights and weekends. And at times that schedule really worked for my business, and at times it was really, really challenging. Often I would spend my mornings or my days off working on business stuff, catching up on, projects that I've got going on, or working on development, skill development, and then I would go to work in the evenings during showtime. That would really work out for more administrative stuff or, project production, but it made it really challenging to do any sort of on-site live event stuff, because a lot of that happens on the weekends or in the evenings. So I had to turn down a lot of work because of my full-time job. I had some flexibility because we're in the evening. So if I had, if there's an event from like 1 to 6, I could go into work late, but that wasn't always the case. So I had to turn down a lot of work because of my full-time job. And that was a really big catalyst for wanting to leave my job and go full time.
When did you feel like your business started to take off?
Like a big takeoff at the beginning of this year. I started to get more. I had launched my website and just had it up and available. My SEO was pretty non-existent for quite a while until I joined the Craft Academy. So I guess at the beginning of the year, end of last year, I started to get more inquiries for live events. Just started to get more people that were finding me without me doing a whole lot. Granted, we don't have a lot of calligraphers in Vegas. There's only a handful of us. So when people are looking for calligraphers, there's not very many to choose from. So when I noticed that people started finding me end of last year, beginning of this year, I was like, I think this could be a thing.
Cool. So tell us what you were selling, what you were kind of specializing in.
So when I first started the business in 2020 during the pandemic,
like
I did everything. It's like what we all do, just to try to figure out what we like, doing products, ornaments, prints, all of that kind of stuff. In the next couple of months, I was like, products are not my thing. I definitely want to be service-based. So really started to focus on weddings and live events. And would take on a couple of commissions as they came in because they needed the money, but I didn't love it. It was a lot of time consuming and not a lot of people want to pay the money that it actually costs to do big commissions. So I started doing that over the last year. And like I said, my income was pretty limited. I wasn't bringing in a whole lot. I would say maybe on a good month, bringing in $1,000 a month. And, my net profit was probably, $500-600. It was really like play money for quite a while. And then end of last year, started to pick up a little bit. Like you mentioned before, I did about 3,000 during the holiday season. I was feeling pretty good about that. I was like, I'm not putting in a ton of effort and jobs are coming in. So I think if I actually tried at this and actually put in the work and the effort, then this could really turn into something. And so really started to focus beginning of this year on just weddings and events and really trying to focus in on doing service-based stuff.
I love that you talked about your journey to experimenting with all of the calligraphy things and like finally figuring out you loved weddings and events and like really niche down from there. What were some of your goals for the business?
For the business,
and what did you want your business
goals for my business is I just
like?
wanted to be able to connect with more people and share my art with people. When you're first starting out and people are seeing what you're doing, you start to notice that like they feel very appreciative with like personalized things, and it feels very you get to connect with those people and they feel very connected to that kind of art. And I wanted that more. Like I loved being able to connect with couples and being able to, for weddings, being able to take their love story or take their personality and build it into the pieces that I make for them. And live events for any calligrapher, anyone who's been a part of like a personalized thing, like when you get this thing that someone made for you right in front of you, it's like, this is cool. This is like a really amazing thing that you do. Like you have the skill, and I wanted to do more of that. And so I wanted the business to grow in that way, and I wanted it to support the life that I wanted to have. I wanted to have more ownership over my life and my schedule. Being in the show schedule is incredibly rigid. My days off are when the show is off. So we work holidays, we work weekends. I get my schedule at the beginning of the year, and it doesn't really change. And so I was missing out on a lot of life things that I didn't want to miss out on anymore. I wanted to be able to make the choice of what things I missed out on, when to work, when not to work. And my husband's also self-employed. He's a gig worker as well. And I just felt like we weren't able to build the life that we wanted to build. So personally, I wanted to be able to start building a life that we could have more ownership of and be able to work as much as we wanted to or as little as we wanted to based on what was happening in our lives.
That's so important to have the financial freedom. I love saying that like life and happiness isn't just about money, but having money does help. It does kind of buy you that freedom that you don't realize that you're missing. Like one of the things that I also realized when I was working in the pharmacy, not knowing, you know, in high school, I was like, oh, I want to be in the medical field. Not knowing that the hospital never closes. So you could be working overnight, you could be working holidays. And so that wasn't something that I envisioned for myself as well. And we also worked every other weekend. So I missed out on a lot of opportunities, a lot of, you know, vacations and with friends and family that I wasn't able to go to because I was, you know, in the pharmacy. So I definitely hear you on that. When was like the turning point for you for
last year
wanting to invest in yourself and your business?
Tripod there. The last year in my full-time job was definitely one of the hardest that I've ever had. Between COVID and relaunching the shows after being dark for the last 18 months, like it was really demanding and really challenging. And I just felt like I was working all the time. And also being the head of the department, like I had taken on a lot of responsibility. And then on top of, you know, your passions and your priorities changing, it just became a really difficult year. And so, like I mentioned, you know, the business really started taking off. It started to feel like something that could be doable. And so I started looking at what it would take to go full time, what would it look like to run a full business, looking at taxes and, you know, licenses and LLCs and all like the logistics that go into it. And then for me, like I like to be organized. I like to have processes and steps. And so looking at what all that looks like, and it became very overwhelming. And I'm like, okay, I know that I could figure this out, but that means that I probably can't leave my job for another year, year and a half. And that was really overwhelming. I was like, I don't know that I could stay in this job like the way that it is for that long. So once I had all that together and I'm looking at what's going on, I was like, surely there's somebody that can help me with this, because I don't know what the actual steps are. And sure, I could Google it, trial and error it, but then like I said, that's like another year and a half before I can leave my job. So then I came across you through, I don't remember, it was somewhere on Instagram, another calligrapher, somebody, and learning about the content that was in it. It was everything that I was looking into. It was like, these are, you know, I want to learn the steps on how to find people to hire me. I want to learn the steps on how to show people my work and, you know, the business side of it, the creative side of it, the networking, and all of that information was in the Craft Academy program. Not to mention it's built and run by somebody who's doing exactly what I want to be doing. You know, you're doing the live events, you're doing, you know, this high profile stuff that I want to get into. So when you see somebody who's doing what you want to do, that's the coach for you. You know what I mean?
Hire someone who's living the life that you want to live.
So once we had our call and I got a little bit more details on the Craft Academy, I knew that having the steps in front of me was going to save me time on Googling, trial and error, trying to figure out how to work Excel for all of those, like, you know, spreadsheets that I wanted to build. And I knew that it was going to completely shorten the time that I would need to get out of my full-time job. And it turns out I was right. I left my job 4 months after I joined the Craft Academy.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So you've been in the program for 6 months. You quit 4 months after that, and now you've been a full-time artist for 2 months. So that's a huge transformation in such a short amount of time. So with that being said, what's the biggest change that you made with your business since you started the program?
Absolutely shifted the mindset. I mean, when you're switching to a secure job, you know what you're getting paid every 2 weeks, you've got benefits, everything is very predictable, to switching to a gig self-employed work where you're like, I don't know when the money's coming in, I don't know what my jobs are, and surely you can predict a little bit of it, but none of it's guaranteed. There's a lot of fear in that. There's a lot of like anxiety in that. So, I mean, the first module in the Craft Academy is all about mindset shift. And I remember when I was first starting it, I opened it up and I was like, ugh, I have to like reflect on myself. I don't feel like doing this. I'm like, but I'm going to do it. No joke, like 2 minutes into this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can do this. I can be a boss. The job's good. The business is going to be successful. I'm going to get the work. It was like a complete transformation. And I remember messaging you that same thing of like, Rosie, this is unbelievable. I can run a business. Like, it's going to happen.
That's crazy. And that's just with one module, like within the first week, which is, I recommend everybody watch the first module countless times, like come back to it every 6 months or so, because your mentality is going to change and you have to continue growing. So that's the beauty about like the Craft Academy, is that it's a lifetime access. So you can like literally come back to the lessons again and again, because you're always going to learn something new, and the programs are always changing.
Yeah,
so
it was a massive shift. And it really,
I'm excited.
It gave me the confidence and the surety that, I can run a business and it will be successful. So that was the biggest shift for me.
So good. That makes my heart so happy. Let's fast forward to today. You're 6 months into the program. You've quit your full-time job. You're having a super successful holiday season so far. In November, December, you've already, projected to make about 11,000, which compared to 3,000 last year in November and December is a massive shift. That's literally almost 4xing her income, and it's not over yet. The season's not over yet. We still have 10 more days. So you can still have more events coming onto your plate if you want to take that. So tell us about the coolest event that you've done so far. So you're in Vegas, you get, there's major luxury brands out there. You have performers and conventions and stuff. So tell us a little bit about
tons of
some of the
luxury
stuff that
brands
you've been
here,
working
and
on.
there's 6 of them in the whole town. You know what I mean? You've got the Strip and everyone's got a luxury store in it. It's definitely really cool to be able to go to these really beautiful places, and all of these stores are just stunning because they're all in these massive casinos. So I was at Gucci the other week, and they just have this brand new store at the Wynn, and it's 2 floors. It's beautiful, such a fun event. One of the more fun and interesting things, I got an email that was we have an urgent request for a calligrapher, and oftentimes you never know what you're working for until you get there. We just need you to come in and do some place cards for this event we're having. I'm like, okay. And so I show up. It's in this beautiful suite at the top of this casino, beautiful views, and I'm looking around and I'm like, this is for Usher. This is an Usher party event that I'm writing place cards for. So it was just the coolest thing of just you never know who you're going to be working for, and it's just really incredible.
In my mind right now, I'm singing the USHER. And then the thing that kind of inspired me to bring you up on here and do an unscheduled live event or live story on Instagram, you mentioned in a previous DM that you are the preferred vendor for Moët. So tell us how that happened. What was the whole stepwise process of getting the request?
So it was amazing. I still am
vendor and booking 5 more events.
I booked the event, and then she followed up and she goes, I'm so impressed with everything. We'd love for you to be our preferred vendor. And I was like, what? It was kind of a windy path to get there. Last year, I did some windows for a wine bar in town, and I got that job because I was at the wine bar just chatting with the owner, talking about what we did. Me and my husband were there, and we were talking about what we did and how we know some mutual friends. And I was like, oh, well, and that was at the beginning of me trying to say that I'm a calligrapher first instead of saying I'm an athletic trainer first. I was trying to practice. I was like, so I did calligraphy. He's like, oh, could you do our windows? And I was like, yes, I can.
I love it.
So I did their windows, put some hours on there with lettering, and through that, a wine and bottle shop had contacted me and said, I loved what you did with that place. Could you come and do our signage? So they're kind of like a liquor store / tap room, and I did basically all the signage for their remodel. Through that, I had pitched, I was like, I do signage, but I also do live engraving and calligraphy. So if you have any events with any of your vendors, or if you have anybody that wants engraving, you can always refer them to me. And he's like, oh, that's really great. I have an engraver, but it's a machine engraver, and some people aren't super happy with it, and some people are like, it's fine. So if we could have somebody that I know is good, I'd love to be able to refer you. And I'm like, that'd be amazing. So he really became my sales pitch from that point. We got to know each other very well, and so he started pitching me to his suppliers that wanted to do product events at his store. And then so through that, he was having an event with Moët, so he had pitched it to them, and then she got in contact with me. I sent her my brand deck, which I learned from the Craft Academy, and it's a life changer, by the way. Sent her my brand deck. She liked my work, so I sent her my contract and my invoice, and she was so impressed with my work, both administratively and creatively. She had made a point to say, your contract is super straightforward, and your invoicing is so easy to handle. We'd really love to be for you to be a preferred vendor with us. And I was like, yes, obviously. So, there's a whole submission process for that. And so I filled it all out. And then the day of the event, I had met her. She was there, and so I met her in person. And she goes, I'm so happy you're here. I'm so excited to work with you. I've told all of my colleagues about you. We've got 5 events that we know we want to use you for already for next year, and we're really excited to use you all next year. So it was just, it was amazing. And it just showed the power of networking and just talking about what you do all the time, you know, and it doesn't have to be salesy. It's just, hey, I'm an artist. I'm a calligrapher. Like, who does calligraphy anymore? You know, like people love to hear that. And you never know who's going to want to book your services or book what you do. And so from a small conversation at a bar with the owner, I became a preferred vendor for Moet Hennessy.
Oh my gosh. Wow. What a story.
Yeah.
My mind is so blown right now that like you just went to the bar with your husband, talked about your calligraphy instead of your other job, and it made a world of a difference, and it just became like a catalyst into more and more and more events. And I just know next year is going to be even more amazing for you because Moët is like everywhere all the time. So I'm sure you have a ton of like influencer events and stuff that you are going to be doing. There's just so many things that I want to pull out of that like story. So let's talk about the first one of like you finally talking and introducing yourself as a calligrapher. Like what were some of the
so first and foremost, I mean, like I mentioned,
like barriers that you have to kind of overcome for that?
Circus, and in Vegas everybody knows Cirque, and so it's a cool job. And so when you tell people that you work for the circus or you work for Cirque du Soleil, they're like, oh my gosh. And so that feeling of being cool and having a cool job is appealing. And so when people don't know the behind the scenes, and so it's a great fun job, but it was really demanding and it was really taking a toll on my work-life balance and on my mental health, and I really loved it, but it just wasn't for me anymore. And so when I was making that shift, it was definitely an internal barrier I had to get over of like, I am not my job. I'm still cool, even though I don't work, you know, I don't want to work for Cirque. And so that mind shift was pretty challenging to make. But as soon as I started leading with calligraphy, I started to get a very similar response of like, calligraphy, like, that's amazing. Nobody does that. That's so cool. I didn't realize that was like a job that people could do. And so I started to get that response a little bit more, and that was really validating in that. And so really just making that shift of like, my identity is not in my work, even as a calligrapher. So like, you know, my identity is outside of that as well. And just trying to make that shift of like, if this is what I want to be doing, I need to start putting myself in that position.
Oh my gosh, so good, so good. One of the things that I like to say is like if you're having trouble identifying as a calligrapher or introducing yourself as one, you can just talk to yourself in the mirror and practice saying like, I'm a calligrapher, or instead of saying I do calligraphy, you can say I'm a calligrapher and I create, memorabilia and keepsakes for people. And that sparks a full-on conversation, and you just never know where that conversation is going to lead you. For Hannah, it's been an incredible journey already, and this is just the beginning for her. So definitely recommend, starting to introduce yourself, even if you don't feel like a real calligrapher yet. So I do have a YouTube video on that, so I'll try to share that into the stories. If you guys haven't, I would definitely recommend re-listening to this interview because that was such an amazing story. Even, from just introducing yourself to pitching yourself to actually working the event, sending out invoices, contracts, and all that, and making it as simple as possible for your clients makes a world of a difference. And that continues to build a relationship and foster a relationship where people will continue to want to work with you again and again and again because you have such a solid process. And one of the things that we really focus on with the Craft Academy is all of that admin stuff, because it's horrible. It sucks, right? Like there's such a high learning curve. Like you don't know if the contracts are right. So that's one of the things that we have tried and tested multiple times with the Craft Academy. And we do have like templates for all of that stuff and tutorials and stuff. So you don't have to feel like you are by yourself by any means. Like this is kind of a, like I said, a done for you program with the Craft Academy. So, Hannah is just proof of that. So, and it's been a fast tracked process, 6 months to $11,000 in 2 months is incredible. So
after joining, the biggest assurance that like I made the right choice is because not only do you have the tools and templates to have a good process, but you have that community and that validation that you're doing what works. When you're doing it on your own, you're building this stuff and you're like, am I doing this right? Is this what people do? Is this like, are people going to be used to this? But when you have the community in the Craft Academy of people who are doing the same things that you're doing, of like, yeah, this is the process, it works, people like it, it's just really validating that, you're on the right track.
Yay. Oh, love it. Okay, so I'm probably going to go back and listen to your story again just because that was so powerful. So tell us what is next for Tally Mark
I'm really excited to see what the next year is going to hold. I had, leaving the job, going into the whole transition, I left the job in October because I knew the holidays were going to be really busy. And if I wanted to get the business on the right foot, I knew I needed to be fully available for any holiday events that came up. And so I really I was thrown right into the deep end after I lost my full-time job. And it was intentional. It was really intentional because I knew that I needed to have the work for it. Because of the transition was so quickly, I didn't have a whole lot of time to work on pitching and doing a lot of the groundwork that I wanted to be able to do fully. I'm actually really excited to start doing that in the beginning of the year and just start connecting with more brands, connecting with more agencies, and just trying to get as much work as I possibly can. This next year, I'm just really excited to see how much I can grow the business through live events and through weddings. And I'm just excited to create more art and create more work. And it's just really amazing to be able to do that as a job now. And I never thought that I would be an artist full time. I never thought that I would be an entrepreneur. That's not ever something that was on my radar. And I just love the work of it. I love the stuff that's hard, and I love the administrative stuff that's awful and I hate it, but I'm working at my thing, you know what I mean? I'm building this thing and it's mine, and so I'm just really excited to just really dive into that stuff head on and just really see how much I can grow it for the next year.
Yeah, and I have no doubt that with the footprint that you've already created, you're going to have a very, very successcul year, and I'm super excited for you. So what advice would you give to someone who's
I mentioned, kind of the catalyst for me is just it started with knowing what I wanted, knowing what my goals were professionally and personally more so. I wanted ownership over my life. And so it was really knowing what those goals are and the steps that I needed to take towards it. Because of that, knowing what I wanted, looking at things that could help me get there. What courses, tools, etc. are going to help me get to those things. And thinking about that dream life, that's my return on my investment. My ownership over my life, my being able to build a life that me and my husband want to have, that's my return on my investment. It's worth it. And it feels risky, and it feels like something that is too much money, or it's too much time. What if it doesn't work? It's a big risk, but what better risk to take than on yourself? You are the best thing to be able to take a risk on, and the return on investment is going to be that dream life that you want. And as long as you know what those goals are and you're finding someone or something that's going to help you reach it, then it's absolutely worth the investment and worth the risk.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, with the public. I'm super proud of how much you've grown in such a short amount of time. And I honestly have no doubt that next year is going to be so much more fruitful for you, because now you have the time, the energy, the finances, and ultimately the program that's going to help you get to your goal of what's your annual goal for next year.
I haven't put the numbers together yet because I'm nervous about it. We're gonna do nice, achievable, reasonable goal. Yeah. We're gonna shoot for 80,000, which is more than I have made in my business ever. And I think it's a good, reasonable goal.
I think 80K is absolutely achievable, and I know that you're going to get there in no time. If you guys who are watching are interested in joining the Craft Academy and having this fast-track success with a proven program, we now have 100 students in the program officially. So exciting. And we've had so many people in the program already, in the program for 2 years and even 6 months, like Hannah, who have had so much massive success that they wouldn't have been able to achieve as quickly if they were doing trial and error by themselves. So if you want to transform your calligraphy business or your expensive hobby into a profitable business and really reach those financial goals, book a call with me or my team, and we can help you generate the income that you need, whether it's for beer money or to pay off the loans or to really design the life that you want. Send me a DM or, simply sign up for the call. We are open for a very, very short amount of time until Wednesday next week. Other than that, we'll be reopening in mid-January. So send me a DM and I can send you all of the links to how to book a call with us and have you apply for the program. I would love to meet everybody, help you build the business of your dreams. Hannah, thank you so much for everything that you've done for us today. And I'm just honestly so proud of you.
My experience at the Craft Academy and working with you, and it's just, I can't recommend it enough. You.
Yay! Oh my gosh.